The alien delegation stepped off their transport with movements too smooth to be natural. Commander Brett Lawson watched from the observation deck as the Drexari envoys glided across the landing bay floor, their scaled skin catching the harsh station lights in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "They're early," Captain Lisa Monroe said beside him. Her hand rested near her sidearm until she probably didn't realize she had. 15 minutes, Brett confirmed. That's practically insulting in their culture. The lead Drexari stood 7 feet tall, crowned with crystalline horns that pulsed with bioluminescent veins. Princess Kael'Tara, daughter of the Sovereign Flame. The one being in the galaxy who could sign the treaty or condemn humanity to another decade of border wars that were bleeding Earth's colonies dry. Brett's comm crackled. "All personnel to stations. Gift ceremony begins in 10. His stomach dropped. The gift ceremony, the supposedly simple diplomatic tradition that had become a nightmare 3 days ago when the lead diplomat got spaced in a freak airlock malfunction, or what the investigation was calling a malfunction. Brett didn't believe in coincidences, not when 7 other species wanted this treaty to fail. "You have your gift ready?" Lisa asked. Brett thought of the crystal sculpture sitting in the cargo hold, commissioned from Luna's finest artisan, worth 6 months of his salary. The gift every human delegation had prepared. Safe, expected, boring. Then he thought of the other item in his quarters. "Brett?" Lisa's voice sharpened. "Tell me you have the sculpture." The Drexari procession entered the concourse below. Princess Kael'Tara moved like water and fire combined, her crimson scales rippling with each step. Her guards flanked her in perfect formation, their weapons charged and visible. Not a good sign. "The Valorians just presented their gift," someone announced over the comm. "Graviton Matrix. High-end." "Of course they did. Show-offs." Brett's hand went to his pocket, feeling the small wooden object inside, carved by hand over 6 sleepless nights, while the rest of the crew prepared the official gift. Foolish. Sentimental. Completely against protocol. "Brett, we're up in 5 minutes," Lisa said. "I need confirmation you have the sculpture." Princess Kael'Tara's head turned slightly, her triple-pupilled eyes scanning the observation deck. For just a moment, Brett could have sworn she looked directly at him. Her nostrils flared once. Drexari could smell emotional states. Fear. Anxiety. Deception. The comm buzzed again. "Human delegation. Report to presentation chamber. Immediate." Lisa grabbed his arm. "What did you do?" Brett pulled the carved wooden dragon from his pocket. Its wings were spread in flight, every scale etched by hand with a dull knife and too much coffee. Primitive. Laughable compared to million-credit technology. "I made a choice," he said. Lisa's face went through 3 shades of red before settling on fury white. "You carved a toy dragon for the princess who commands 600 warships." "It's not a toy," Brett said, already moving toward the corridor. "And we're out of time." They ran. The station's central ring blurred past, other delegations watching with barely concealed satisfaction as the humans sprinted like amateurs. The Valorians chittered behind translucent face shields. The Corthan ambassador's eye stalks swiveled to track their panic. Brett's boots hit the presentation chamber threshold at full speed. The room opened into a vast amphitheater, crystalline walls refracting light from 1,000 angles. Princess Kael'Tara sat on a raised platform, surrounded by gifts that made Brett's heart sink. Holographic art installations, quantum computing cores, a miniature star contained in a stasis field, and his wooden dragon, hidden in his clenched fist. The human delegation will present their offering. The chamber's AI announced in 12 languages simultaneously. Brett walked forward alone. Protocol said Lisa should accompany him, but she'd frozen at the entrance, probably calculating how to spin this disaster for the after-action report. Princess Kael'Tara's eyes tracked him with predatory focus. Up close, she was even more imposing. Her scales weren't just red, but layered in gradients from crimson to gold, each one a miniature work of art that evolution had spent millions of years perfecting. Her claws, retracted but visible, could slice through hull plating. "You approach without your ceremonial gift-bearer," she said. Her voice resonated in frequencies that made Brett's ribs vibrate. "You arrive in haste. You smell of fear and something else." Defiance, perhaps. Brett stopped at the designated mark. Every eye in the chamber watched him. 17 species, 400 delegates, one chance to not destroy humanity's future. Your Radiance, he began, using the formal address. I come with honesty instead of ceremony. A ripple passed through the Drixari guards. Their weapons hummed higher. Explain! One word, not a request. Brett opened his hand. The wooden dragon sat in his palm, absurdly small and primitive, under the chamber's lights. Someone in the Valorian delegation laughed, a sound like breaking glass. 3 days ago, our lead diplomat died, Brett said. The gift we prepared died with him in terms of meaning. It was his vision, his understanding of your culture. I'm just a commander who runs patrol routes and drinks bad coffee. Princess Kael'thara leaned forward. So you bring me carved wood. I bring you 6 nights of a human trying to understand what it means to be Drexari, Brett said. I read everything I could access about your homeworld. How your ancestors carved their history into canyon walls before they discovered metallurgy. How your coming-of-age ritual involves crafting something with your own claws. No technology, just will and patience. The laughter stopped. I read about the Festival of First Flame, Brett continued, where Drexari children make offerings to their parents using only natural materials, where the value isn't in credits or power but in the time given, the effort invested. He held up the dragon. This is primitive. It's crude. The proportions are probably wrong, and I'm sure it's insulting compared to the graviton matrices in quantum computers. But it's 6 nights of a human trying to honor Drixari tradition the only way he knew how. With his hands. With his time. With honesty. The silence stretched. Princess Kael'thara's face was unreadable, her scales shifting through color patterns Brett couldn't interpret. Then she stood, all 7 feet of her. The guards tensed. She descended from the platform in 3 fluid movements and stopped directly in front of Brett. Close enough that he could feel the heat radiating from her body. Close enough to see his reflection in her triple pupils. The others brought me power, she said softly. You brought me truth. Her claw extended, delicate despite its lethal potential, and lifted the wooden dragon from his palm. Princess Kael'thara held the wooden dragon up to the light, turning it slowly. Her claws, each one capable of punching through reinforced steel, cradled the carving with impossible gentleness. The entire chamber held its breath. The wings are anatomically incorrect, she said. Brett's heart stopped. The scale pattern follows no known Drixari subspecies. Her triple pupils focused on the carving's head. The tail articulation is physiologically impossible. The Valorian delegation chittered louder. The Corthan ambassador's eye stalks quivered with barely suppressed glee. Lisa looked like she was planning Brett's funeral. Then Princess Kael'thara's scales flashed brilliant gold. A color Brett's research told him meant only one thing: joy. But the spirit, she said, her voice rising so the entire chamber could hear, is perfect. This human carved a dragon learning to fly, not a warrior, not a conqueror. A youngling taking its first leap from the nest edge, wings spread in hope rather than certainty. She turned to face the assembled delegations, the wooden dragon held high. Do you know what you revealed about yourself, Commander Brett Lawson? No, Your Radiance. That you see us as people, not weapons. That you took the time to learn our history instead of our arsenal specifications. That you understand the difference between price and value. Her scales rippled through patterns Brett couldn't follow. The others brought me what they think I want. You brought me what I needed to see. That humans can still surprise us. The Valorian ambassador stepped forward, his translator crackling. Surely Your Radiance does not mean to accept this crude artifact over scientifically advanced offerings that could benefit your entire... Silence! Princess Kael'thara's voice dropped to a frequency that made the floor vibrate. I have made my choice clear. She turned back to Brett. Walk with me, Commander. Alone. The guards parted. Lisa started forward, but a single look from the princess froze her mid-step. Brett followed Kael'thara through a side entrance that irised open at her approach. The door sealed behind them with a hiss that sounded way too final. They entered a private observation room overlooking the station's central garden, a rotating cylinder of earth plants that the botanical division had insisted on installing. Princess Kael'Tara moved to the window, still holding the wooden dragon. "Do you know why I came personally?" she asked. "The treaty is too important to trust to ambassadors." "Wrong." She set the dragon on a display pedestal with reverence that seemed excessive for carved wood. "I came because I needed to know if humans could change." Brett waited. "You didn't interrupt a Drexari princess. 50 years ago, your species discovered faster than light travel and immediately began claiming territory like aggressive children." Her reflection in the window showed scales shifting to dark crimson. "You started 3 border conflicts in 5 years. You negotiated in bad faith. You lied about colony placements. You made every species in this sector believe you were dangerous primitives who would burn the galaxy down through sheer ignorant aggression." I'm not finished. Ice in her voice now. "But then something changed. Your generals started losing to your diplomats. Your warships started running rescue operations instead of patrols. Your colonies began trading instead of taking. We watched, waiting for the deception, but it never came. Humans were actually evolving." She turned to face him. "So I came to test that evolution. I had the lead diplomat killed." Brett's blood turned cold. "You what?" "Not personally. But I arranged circumstances that made it possible for those who wanted this treaty to fail." Her eyes never left his. "I needed to see what humans would do under pressure without your polished diplomats' carefully rehearsed presentations. Would you revert to aggression? Would you fake sincerity? Would you try to buy my favor with expensive trinkets you didn't understand?" "That's insane," Brett said. "You gambled on war because you wanted to see us improvise?" "I gambled on peace," she corrected, "and you proved I was right to do so. Your wooden dragon showed me more about humanity's growth than 1,000 diplomatic presentations. You chose vulnerability over performance, honesty over appearance. That is not the species we met 50 years ago." Brett's hands clenched. "People died in those border conflicts. My brother died at Proxima Station defending colonists from Corthan raiders." "I know." "Kellen Lawson, age 24. Hull breach during enemy fire. Princess Kael'Tara's scales softened to pale amber, which makes your choice even more remarkable. You had every reason to hate this process, yet you spent 6 nights trying to honor my culture instead of sabotaging it. That is the humanity I needed to see." She picked up the wooden dragon again. "This treaty will change the galaxy, but only if both our species can trust each other with more than words." Brett's anger warred with understanding. The wooden dragon sat between them like a bridge over decades of bloodshed. So this was all a test. The ceremony, the pressure, watching us scramble. "Not all," Princess Kael'Tara said. "The other delegations presented genuine offers. They simply misunderstood what I valued." She moved closer, her height forcing Brett to look up. "Tell me, Commander, why did you really carve this? The truth, not the diplomatic answer you gave in the chamber." Brett hesitated. Honesty had gotten him this far. "Might as well go all in." "Because I was tired of being afraid," he admitted. "Every briefing about the Drexari focused on your weapons, your fleet strength, your tactical doctrine. Nobody talked about your art, or your festivals, or why your ships have gardens inside them. We were so busy preparing for war that we forgot to prepare for peace." "And the dragon specifically?" "I found a file buried in the cultural database. A Drexari nursery tale about a youngling who couldn't breathe fire like the others. Instead of giving up, it learned to fly higher than any dragon before it, used wind currents and thermal updrafts, became a scout for its clan." Brett shrugged. "Reminded me of humanity. We're not the strongest species or the oldest. We just keep figuring out new ways to stay alive." Princess Kael'Tara's scales flashed gold again. "That story is 3,000 years old. Most Drexari don't even know it anymore." "Where did you find it?" "Archaeological survey data from your 4th moon. Some xenolinguist at Oxford spent 15 years translating cave paintings." Brett managed a tired smile. "I think she died before publishing. Her notes were flagged as low priority. You read unpublished archaeological notes to prepare a gift. I read everything I could find. Most of it was useless, but that story stuck. The princess was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something that made Brett's tactical training scream warnings. She extended her hand, palm up, claws retracted. A Drexari trust gesture that left the vulnerable underside of her wrist exposed. "The treaty will be signed," she said. "But I have a proposal that goes beyond official channels." Brett stared at her hand. Taking it meant accepting whatever came next. No negotiations, no backup, pure faith. He took it. Her scales were warm, textured like fine leather. Her grip was gentle, despite the strength he knew she possessed. "There are factions in my government who believe humans are still too dangerous," Princess Kael'Tara said, "and factions in yours who think the Drexari will betray you the moment it's convenient. Both sides have evidence. Both sides have legitimate fears. And your proposal? A cultural exchange program. Not diplomats or politicians. Regular people. Soldiers, engineers, teachers, artists. Humans living on Drexari worlds. Drexari living on human colonies." Her scales shifted to deep blue. A color Brett's research said indicated serious contemplation. "Let our people learn each other the way you learned us. Through stories and carvings and late nights reading forgotten archives. That's ambitious. That's necessary." She released his hand. "The treaty prevents war, but this program could build actual peace. The kind that lasts because people choose it, not because governments mandate it." Brett's mind raced. The logistics alone would be nightmarish. Security concerns, cultural misunderstandings, the potential for disasters that could undo everything, but also the potential for something humanity had never really achieved with another species, real understanding. "I'd need to clear it with command," he started. "I'm not asking command. I'm asking you." Princess Kael'Tara picked up the wooden dragon, examining it again. "I want you to lead the human side of this program. Find the people who think like you do. The ones who see past weapon specifications to the stories underneath. Can you do that?" Every instinct, Brett had screamed that this was beyond his pay grade. He was a commander who ran patrol routes, not a cultural ambassador. He had no training in diplomacy, no experience managing programs that could reshape interspecies relations. But he thought about his brother Kellen, about all the others who died because humans and Drexari saw each other as threats instead of potential allies. About 6 nights carving wood because nobody else had bothered to look past the fear. "Yes," he said. "I can do that." "Good." Princess Kael'Tara moved toward the door, then paused. "One more thing, Commander. The Valorian delegation is already planning to undermine this treaty. They profit from border conflicts. They've bribed 3 members of your admiralty and at least 1 Drexari general." Brett's hand dropped to his sidearm. "You have proof. I have strong suspicions and circumstantial evidence, which is why I need humans I can trust working on this program. People who choose honesty over convenience." Her scales flashed red, the color of challenge. "Think you can handle hunting traitors while building peace? That's a lot to drop on someone who just wanted to give you a wooden dragon. You started this when you chose to carve instead of conform. Own it. The door, irised open." Beyond it, the presentation chamber buzzed with dozens of delegations processing what they'd witnessed. Lisa stood near the entrance, her expressions cycling between relief and terror at what Brett's gamble might mean for both their careers. Princess Kael'Tara stepped through, then looked back. "The signing ceremony is in 3 hours. After that, you have 1 week to give me a preliminary team roster. Choose well, Commander. The galaxy is watching." The signing ceremony proceeded with mechanical precision. 17 species witnessed Princess Kael'Tara place her claw print beside the human ambassador's signature. The treaty that would reshape half the galaxy became official in less than 10 minutes, accompanied by translation protocols and camera flashes from 40 different types of recording equipment. Brett watched from the human delegations section, still processing everything. Lisa stood beside him, her jaw tight enough to crack teeth. "You're insane," she whispered as the Corthan ambassador delivered a congratulatory speech that fooled nobody. "Cultural exchange program? Hunting traitors? Do you have any idea what you just agreed to?" Not really, Brett admitted. Fantastic. That's inspiring confidence. The Valorian delegation sat 3 rows down, their crystalline faces unreadable behind environmental shields. Ambassador Thexfer gestured to his attaché with movements too casual to be natural. Brett had spent enough time reading body language across species to recognize a command when he saw one. His comm vibrated silently, a message from an unknown sender, routed through 17 proxy servers. Military-grade encryption. The message contained 3 words and a data packet. They're moving early. Brett opened the packet using his command codes. Intelligence reports flooded his visual display. Financial transactions, communication intercepts, supply manifests that didn't match official records, all pointing to a coordinated effort to destabilize the treaty before the ink dried. The Valorians weren't working alone. Corthan military contractors, human admiralty members, with gambling debts, even 2 Drixari generals who'd profited enormously from border skirmishes, a conspiracy that crossed species lines, united by the simple fact that peace was bad for business. We have a problem, Brett said quietly. Lisa glanced at his display and went pale. That's a problem. That's an extinction-level catastrophe. If this goes public before we can verify it, it won't go public. Brett closed the file. Not yet. Who sent you that? Someone who wants the treaty to succeed. Brett watched Princess Kael'Tara accept formal congratulations from the Arcturus Collective's representative. Someone with access to intelligence networks across multiple governments. That describes about 6 different Black Ops organizations, half of which would happily kill us both. Probably. The ceremony concluded. Delegates began filtering toward the reception area, where staff had arranged what diplomats called a celebration and soldiers called a target-rich environment. Too many people, too many potential weapons, too many ways for things to go catastrophically wrong. Brett's comm vibrated again. Another message, same encryption, garden level, hydroponics base 7, come alone. Lisa saw his expression change. Don't you dare. I have to. Brett, this is textbook setup protocol. Isolated location. Time pressure. This is how commanders end up spaced. Then cover me from observation deck 3. You'll have line of sight to the bay entrance. That's not... Lisa. Brett met her eyes. We knew this treaty had enemies. Now we know who they are and that they're desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. I need to know what mistakes they're about to make. She was quiet for 3 seconds. Then she pulled a compact neural scanner from her jacket and pressed it into his palm. If your brainwaves spike into stress patterns, I'm coming in with security. Don't be heroic. Wouldn't dream of it. Brett slipped away while the reception reached full volume. The station's garden level occupied the outer ring, a rotating section that generated 0.3 Earth gravity through centrifugal force. Trees and crops from a dozen worlds grew in carefully separated biomes, maintained by automated systems and a skeleton crew of botanists. Hydroponics Base 7 specialized in Drexari desert flora. Brett entered through the maintenance access, his hand near his sidearm, eyes scanning for threats. A figure waited among the crystalline cacti. Human. Male. Maybe 60 years old, with the kind of scars that came from decades in combat zones. He wore civilian clothes but stood like military. Commander Lawson, the man said. Good, you came alone. Who are you? Someone who's been watching you carve wood when you should have been sleeping. The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Names don't matter. Information does. The Valorians are planning to stage an incident at the human colony on Arcturus Prime. Make it look like Drexari aggression. Reignite border tensions before the treaty can take effect. When? 72 hours, maybe less. They've got mercenaries in place. Ex-military. Good enough to make it convincing. Brett's mind raced through implications. Arcturus Prime housed 40,000 colonists, mostly families. If the Valorians succeeded, the resulting outrage could shatter the treaty and push humanity back toward war. Why tell me? Brett asked. Why not go through official channels? Because official channels are compromised. The man stepped closer. One colonial governor, At least a dozen intelligence officers across 4 agencies. The conspiracy goes deeper than your data package showed. I'm telling you because Princess Kael'Tara trusts you, and right now, that trust is the only thing keeping this galaxy from burning. You're with Drexari intelligence. I'm with anyone who wants to stop another war. The man's expression hardened. I lost my daughter at Proxima Station. Same battle as your brother. I've spent 10 years making sure that never happens again. So yeah, I work with Drexari intelligence, and Corthan peace advocates, and even some Valorians who think their government has lost its mind. We're all traitors to somebody. Brett processed that. Cross-species intelligence cooperation. Deep cover operations. The kind of work that never made official records. What do you need from me? Get to Arcturus Prime. Take people you trust absolutely. Stop the attack without making it public. If the colonists find out they were used as pawns in a political game, they'll demand retaliation. Give the conspiracy exactly what it wants. That's impossible. I can't deploy forces without authorization. You can with Princess Kael'Tara's backing. She's already prepared emergency authorization for your cultural exchange program. Use it. Take a team. Call it an advanced scouting mission. The man pulled a data chip from his pocket and tossed it. Brett caught it reflexively. Everything you need is on there. Mercenary positions. Timeline. Fallback plans. One chance to stop this clean. And if I fail, then your wooden dragon becomes a memorial to the last time humans in Drexari almost had peace. The man moved toward a side exit. 72 hours, Commander. Choose your team wisely. He disappeared into the artificial jungle before Brett could ask more questions. Lisa's voice crackled in his ear. Brett, your neural patterns just spiked hard. What happened? Brett stared at the data chip. 72 hours to build a team. Stop an attack. Save a treaty. No pressure. I need you to find me 6 people, he said. The best we have. And Lisa, pack for a colony deployment. Brett assembled his team in 48 hours. 6 people who'd proven themselves in ways that didn't always make official reports. Lisa Monroe, because she'd covered his back for 3 years and never once asked him to be someone he wasn't. Danny Chen, demolitions expert who could disarm anything or blow it to pieces with equal precision. Kate Sullivan, sniper with confirmed kills at ranges that made physics professors doubt their equations. Marcus Webb, intelligence analyst who saw patterns in chaos. Tanya Rodriguez, combat medic who'd saved more lives in border skirmishes than most doctors managed in hospitals. And himself. They hit Arcturus Prime's surface at dawn, using Princess Kael'Tara's authorization to bypass standard security. The colony spread across a valley between rust-colored mountains, prefab structures mixed with newer permanent buildings. 40,000 people going about their lives, completely unaware they were sitting in a trap. The data chip's intel was perfect, too perfect. Mercenary positions marked down to the meter. Attack timeline accurate to the minute. Fallback protocols that showed someone on the inside had been feeding information for months. This feels wrong, Lisa said as they moved through the colony's industrial sector. Nobody gives up operational security this complete unless they want us here. I know, Brett said. Keep moving. The mercenaries had set up in an abandoned mining facility on the colony's edge. 12 professionals, armed with Drexari weapons, ready to attack the main residential area and leave evidence pointing straight at Princess Kael'Tara's fleet. Simple. Effective. Exactly the kind of false flag that started wars. Kate took position on a ridge overlooking the facility. I count 11 targets. Data said 12. One's missing, Marcus confirmed through his scanner. And I'm picking up energy signatures that don't match the intel. Someone modified the plan. Brett's instincts screamed. Modified plan. Perfect intelligence. One missing mercenary. It's a setup, he said. Pull back now. The explosion came from behind them. Their shuttle, their extraction, their only way off planet, erupted in a fireball that lit up the dawn sky. Secondary charges in the ridge, Danny reported. Already moving. Someone mined our approach. We're boxed in. Gunfire erupted from 3 directions. Not the mercenaries at the facility. Different shooters, better positioned, using the mercenaries as bait to draw Brett's team into a kill zone. They knew we were coming, Lisa shouted over the weapon's fire. They knew everything. Brett's mind raced. The mysterious contact. The perfect intelligence. The 72-hour deadline that pushed them into moving fast instead of careful. They'd been played from the start. Tanya, Marcus, find cover and hold, he ordered. Kate, suppressing fire on the ridge positions. Danny, Lisa, with me. We're going loud. They charged the mining facility because it was the only move left. Surprise worked in their favor for exactly 30 seconds. Then training took over and professionals started dying on both sides. Brett took down 2 mercenaries before reaching the facility's main structure. Danny breached the door with shaped charges that turned reinforced steel into confetti. Lisa went in first, her weapon barking 3-round bursts that sounded like thunder in the enclosed space. The missing mercenary waited inside, except he wasn't a mercenary. Admiral Preston Kane, Human Fleet Command, one of the 3 names on Brett's compromised list. Commander Lawson, Kane said, weapon aim steady. You're remarkably predictable. You set this up? Brett said. All of it. The attack, the intelligence. You wanted us here. I wanted you dead, Kane corrected. You and your treaty and your naive belief that peace with the Drexari is possible. This colony will burn. Your team will be blamed. And the resulting outrage will give me exactly the war I need. Why? Because I spent 30 years fighting the Drexari. Because I lost people I loved to their weapons. Because some wounds don't heal with treaties and wooden dragons. Kane's finger tightened on the trigger. History will remember you as the commander who tried and failed. Nothing personal. The shot came from behind Kane. Kate's bullet, fired from 800 meters through a window Brett hadn't even known existed, took the Admiral in the shoulder and spun him sideways. Brett moved, disarmed Kane, zip-tied his hands while Lisa secured the facility. The other shooters are retreating, Marcus reported over comm. Colonists are responding to the explosion. We've got maybe 5 minutes before this becomes public. Brett looked at Kane, bleeding on the floor. At the Drexari weapons stage to implicate the princess. At the body count they'd accumulated stopping this. We can't hide this, Lisa said quietly. Too many witnesses. Too much evidence. She was right. The conspiracy had won. Not the way they'd planned, but exposure would be almost as destructive as success. The treaty would survive, but the trust wouldn't. People would know how close they'd come to manufactured war. Brett's comm chimed. Princess Kael Tara's frequency, Commander Lawson. Her voice carried notes of both anger and respect. I'm watching your situation through satellite feeds. You have 2 choices. Try to cover this up and fail, or own it completely. Meaning? Meaning I'm landing at your position with witnesses from 6 species. Meaning we document everything. Admiral Kane's conspiracy. The mercenaries. Your team's intervention. We make this public, we make it transparent, and we show the galaxy that humans and Drexari can fight corruption together. Brett looked at his team. Exhausted, bloodied, alive. Do it, he said. 2 hours later, Brett stood in the colony's central square, Princess Kael Tara beside him. Cameras from 40 news networks broadcasting across known space. Admiral Kane in custody. His conspiracy shattered. Peace isn't clean, Brett told the watching galaxy. It's messy and complicated and people die trying to stop those who profit from war. But it's still worth fighting for. Princess Kael Tara held up the wooden dragon, somehow still intact after everything. This human carved hope, she said. Today we defend it together. The treaty held. The cultural exchange program launched. And Brett Lawson, the commander who'd carved a dragon, became the man who'd proven peace was worth more than perfection. 6 months later, Brett received a package. Inside was a Drexari carving, a human figure, wings spread, learning to fly. The note read, "Keep surprising us. Kael Tara." He placed it next to his workbench, where a new carving waited. This one showed